Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming out to the License and Variance Board meeting. At this point, I'd like to call to order the License and Variance Board meeting. For the record, my name is Jason Laney, and I'm the fire chief, and I'll be running the meeting. To my right is Roy Akery, the deputy fire chief, and to my left is Scott Stokes, the public works director. Also keeping the minutes today will be Rosemary Rivera, the executive assistant to the city administrator, and accompanying her is our city clerk. We have several items on the agenda. When you hear your item, if you would, step to the podium and we'll try to move along fairly quickly. The first item that we have today is V13-013. It's a public hearing for a variance request to allow an accessory structure in the front yard, 5.36 acres, land lot 346, 2500 South Cobb Drive for Cobb Ice Houses Incorporated. Is there anyone here to speak on that matter? If you could, when you step to the mic, if you could speak clearly in the mic, because the meeting is being recorded.
Good morning. My name's Bo Wilson.
Okay, Bo, and who are you with?
Cobb Ice Houses is the name of the company.
Can you tell us a little bit about your variance request?
What I'd like to do is put a self-contained ice house. It's 24 feet long, 9 feet wide, in the front parking lot of Adventure Outdoors. It's a self-contained vending ice machine. There's a lot of them in Florida and down in South Georgia. So that's my objective.
Okay. If you could step aside for just a second and let us hear from community development on this issue.
Joey Stobbs, Planner 1 with Community Development. As the applicant stated, they are requesting to put a accessory structure in the front yard of 2500 South Cobb. This would go in the front parking lot. It's a 9x24 structure, and we reviewed the request. Community Development feels that there is space in the rear of the property should they choose to place the structure there. There's also an entrance from Old Concord Road to the rear of the property and a side drive that connects the front parking lot to the rear of the property. So there is accessibility to the rear of the property. There's space to the rear of the property. Also, the License Variance Board has never granted a variance of this request before, so approval of the request would set a precedent. We've posted signage notifying of the variance request. We received no opposition, but due to the lack of hardship and the precedent it would set, we've recommended denial.
Okay. Sir, can you step back up? Do you understand what he just said, that our community development department has looked at the variance request and found that this ice machine actually could be put on the property without causing a variance?
I do, but can I
sure address that if you would?
Of course, if we put it behind the main reason for being out in the front is on South Cobb Drive, where the visibility would attract customers. If we were behind the building, nobody could see us. I mean, while there is a road behind the building, the traffic count is negligible, and of course currently it's a secured area where Mr. Wallace stores items in a fenced-in area behind the building. Let's see some of the objections. So in Mr. Stobbs' email to me, he was concerned about congestion. As you do, just drive up to it, put a $1.50 in the machine and get a big bag of ice out. It's only going to won't even take up 2 parking spaces. There's 226 parking spaces in front of the Adventure Outdoors. I don't anticipate 2 cars being there at the most at one time. And also, as far as a precedent, just south of there, 300 yards, there was a freestanding accessory structure. This looks like an old photo mat or something. That then was says emissions on it now. So it's I think all in all, the footprint of it takes up roughly the same size as what I intend to do, and that's just on the other side of of a building, basically, it's not on the same parcel of property, but it's 300 feet to the south. So if you didn't know where the property lines were, you'd think it was, in the same development.
Based on what you're saying, though, in the visibility from Southcom Drive, is it your intention or your thoughts that this is primarily going to service the customers from Adventure Outdoors, or just anybody? I mean, I understand anybody could, but primarily, are you targeting the customers at Adventure Outdoors, or just anybody that's driving up and down the road?
Just anybody driving up and down the road. I don't think that, the Adventure Outdoors customers would be a significant portion of the business.
Okay, so the fact that it's in the parking lot of Adventure Outdoors really has no bearing, I guess.
Oh, no, I mean, we could move it next door to the next, person. I'm not targeting them. It just is a convenient location.
Okay.
Got some questions. Okay. You mentioned the structure's 9 feet by 24. What about the height? How high is the structure?
The height is, I'll put a decorative, or of course it's an ice machine, so the compressor sits on top of the building. But to answer your question, it goes up to 11 feet. It doesn't have to, but I think it would look nicer if we had an awning going around the top, which hid the compressor, which sits on top of the building, of which the highest point would be 11 feet.
Okay, so your proposal for the structure would roughly be 9 feet by 24 by 11 feet.
Yes,
is that
sir.
right? Okay, so if in areas where this structure exists, I'm assuming that a customer would come up to one side, probably one of the long sides,
Right.
and put the money in and receive, the ice.
Right.
Would that side where the vending actually takes place, would it face towards Adventure Outdoors building, or would it face towards South Cobb Drive?
I had it in mind pretty much perpendicular to the street, so the vending. Let's see. I've got a picture of one that.
The vending's on the short side of the structure, correct?
Right, on the 9 foot.
So you would park on the side of it, get out. You would have to get out of your car.
Right.
It's
You'd
not
have
a
to get
drive-through type event.
So,
Right.
which kind of leads to my next, the other three sides of the structure.
Right.
Have there ever been situations, or is it normal that the other three sides of the structure are used for advertising space of any kind?
Well, we do typically have the name of the, twice the ice written on the side of the machine to indicate to the. So if you're driving down the street and the machine's perpendicular to you, you could see on the side of the machine what it is, an ice machine. So the information's on both sides. In the front, the 9 foot wide is just where you put your money in and receive your ice.
Okay.
With basic instructions.
Okay. I had no further questions.
Do you have a picture of it?
I've got a picture of one that's not as nice as the one I want to put up, as it's just one I snapped up in Cartersville, or actually this was down in Florida. So that's what the front of the machine looks like, and here's what the side of it looks like. Of course, mine would have an awning covering the top of the, going around the side, so the compressor and whatnot had cleaner lines and more sightly. Plus, disregard the dirt parking lot, of course.
Right.
Any concerns about the water that needs?
I mean, where do you get the water from? Do you ask for a separate water meter?
Right, I'd have to separately electric and water meter the machine.
Is there, if stipulations were made, is underground service to the structure?
I'd prefer to have underground just because it would make it look nicer.
And water, just being, as Chief said, Public Works, the closest water source is in the middle of South Cobb Drive. So you're talking a great expense to bore South Cobb Drive to obtain water to that particular facility.
Well, and that's why I leaned over and said something to him, because I remember directly in that area dealing with a sprinkler system being added to a building, and the water tap had to be made underneath the middle of South Cobb Drive. Mm-hmm. I didn't know if that was still the case, and Scott confirms that it is. Are you familiar with that?
No, I don't have any
I don't know if
experience
you've
with
researched that. Or,
I haven't gotten that far.
You're into thousands of dollars to do that, to get it.
Of course, now there's a restaurant or something not too far, perhaps, I'm no water engineer, where they come in, maybe we could put another meter there and tap off that, but I don't have any experience.
Okay.
Your water would be perpendicular to the road in the South Cobb Drive, so a few thousands of dollars of expense to just provide water to that structure.
Might be something you want to look at.
Okay.
Can we hear back from community development? There's a question.
Yeah, the gentleman had mentioned and showed us a photo of an existing kiosk, and when he referenced it to precedents, because you talked about no precedents. Are you familiar with that existing freestanding accessory?
We would have to investigate whether that is an accessory structure or whether that is a building on its own parcel.
So it's possible that's a separate parcel?
Correct.
Okay.
As it stands, this variance request is one parcel where there is a primary structure. Therefore, this would be an accessory structure.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Questions? This is a public hearing. If there's anyone that would like to speak on this matter, we would ask that you step forward at this time. Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make a motion that this board deny the variance request V13-013 public hearing to allow an accessory structure in front yard 5.36 acre land lot 346 at 2500 South Cobb Drive for Cobb Ice Houses, Inc.
Second motion.
I have a motion and a second to deny the variance request for this accessory in the front yard. All those present, please vote. Okay, that denial passes 3-0. Sir, if you could step back up, I need to tell you about your appeal rights. The board has decided today not to grant this. However, you still do have recourse. Anything that the License and Variance Board denies, you have a right to appeal to the City Council and have it heard by them. And in order to exercise that right, you need to provide in writing to the City Clerk's office a letter of appeal within 10 days of today.
Okay.
Okay. Good luck to you, sir.
Okay, thank you.
The second item on the agenda today is item V13-014. It's a public hearing for a variance request approval for an increase in maximum allowable height for a fence in the front yard from 4 feet to 6 feet, 0.15 acres, land lot 446. I don't have the address, but I believe it's on Belmont. Eliza and Josh Woodby. Is anybody here to speak on that? If you could, please step forward and state your name clearly into the mic for the records, and then tell us about your variance request, please.
My name is Eliza Woodby. The address is 996 Turner Drive, Southeast in Smyrna. We had
Is that on the corner of Belmont?
It is.
Okay.
We are building our home in that neighborhood, and we submitted a variance request to increase our side fence to go from 4 feet to 6 feet. We just felt like since we were facing a main public road right there, anyone walking by would be able to look straight into our backyard, being 4 feet, and everybody else in the neighborhood has a 6-foot fence. So we requested that for privacy purposes. I'm home. My husband works night shifts, so I'm home alone a lot, and for security reasons and privacy reasons, we requested that extra 2 foot.
Okay. If we could hear from community development on this issue.
This is a variance request at 996 Turner Drive. They would like to increase the fence height in the front yard from 4 feet to 6 feet. This is a corner lot, so it has 2 road frontages. By that, our ordinance defines both of those as front yards. So they would need a variance to increase the fence height. The placement of this house is to the west of Belmont Circle, so it leaves the whole side or the front yard on Belmont Circle open and visible. So due to that hardship, the privacy and security concerns, we recommended approval with conditions. Approval of the requested variance shall be conditioned upon the development of the property in substantial compliance with the site plan and fence details submitted with the variance application. 2, a row of evergreen trees shall be planted in front of the fence on the subject property along the entire length of the fence on Belmont Circle in accordance with the submitted tree plan for the Belmont Chase subdivision. In addition to that, we would recommend a tree be placed where the driveway is that's you can see from Belmont Circle. The landscape plan they submitted didn't show that, but we would also recommend that. 3, the proposed fence shall be placed behind the recommended tree screening. 4, a letter from the HOA granting permission for the fence and trees to encroach the private utility and landscape easement shall be required. 5, the fence and tree screening shall be properly maintained. We posted signage notifying the neighborhood of the variance request, and this morning we did receive one letter of opposition regarding the request.
Do you have that letter with you?
I do.
Could you read that into the record, please?
Absolutely. Thank you. This is an email from Joyce Stone. She's at Lot 1 of Belmont Chase. I'm not sure of the exact address, but the letter states, since I will not be available to attend the meeting tomorrow, Wednesday, March 27, 2013, I wanted to express my concerns to you. The house built in my community at the corner of Belmont Circle and Turner is requesting to extend their fence out approximately 4 additional feet and build the fence 6 feet high when code says the fence should only be 4 feet high because it is on a corner lot. I have several concerns. First, the fence could decrease visibility at the corner of Turner and Belmont Circle since there is already large trees, Leland cypress, planted along the property line. Secondly, the extension of the fence line will decrease the appeal of lots 1 and 2. I live on lot 1, and as anyone is approaching our development, I believe that they will see a 6-foot fence. I believe this does not make my lot as marketable as it is now. I appreciate the buyer wanted to fence in as much space as they possibly can, but I am strongly against this variance. Thank you, Joyce Stone.
Okay. Any questions for him?
The front yard on a corner lot's defined as the shortest property line, correct?
Correct.
So the other front yard is considered what?
Well, it has the, I don't know how to answer that. I mean, it's still a front yard.
It's considered the street side yard based on the zoning, but under the accessory structure ordinance where the requirement for the 4-foot fence in the front yard, it defines any side yard that is located along a right-of-way, an existing right-of-way, is considered a front yard as well.
So the
this is
the 6-foot fence would have to stop where?
If a strict reading of the ordinance would require the 6-foot fence could not extend any further than the front face of the home.
So
And then from the front face of the home to the street, it'd have to be a 4-foot fence.
So the rear facing the house, the rear left corner would be the stopping point of the 6-foot.
Yeah, the side of the house on that side would be the stopping point for the 6-foot fence.
Okay. Are there trees already in place?
Yeah, the trees were planted by the developer approximately, 1 to 2 weeks ago.
So and those are the same trees that are associated with your stipulations?
They are the same trees that were proposed on the subdivision plan. They were rearranged to help with the variance request and the conditions that we were going to provide.
So the trees are associated with the variance request, or are they associated with the tree plan of the subdivision?
The trees were initially required per the tree plan, but they were rearranged to also help out with the screening of the fence as proposed by the applicant.
Okay.
What kind of trees are they?
They are cryptomeria and I believe Nellie Stevens hollies. So they're evergreen trees. The cryptomeria will eventually get to be quite large. The
Taller than the
hollies
house?
won't get as big, but they'll still be substantial trees.
Taller, the cryptomeria taller than the house?
Yeah, I mean eventually. But
Knowing what you know about them, and I know you're not a tree person, but when the cryptomeria, I guess it's similar. It looks like a Leland, I guess, which everybody's familiar with.
yeah, they're very close to a Leland cypress. From a long ways away, you really can't tell the difference. But up close, once you look at the leaves, you can tell they're a different tree, but they're not susceptible to the fungus and disease that Leland cypress are. Once you get that disease with the Leland cypress, it'll wipe out the whole row.
When they grow together and get big, are you going to be able to see this fence?
Probably not. I mean, you see a lot of these Leland cypress and cryptomeria up and down Atlanta Row, and it pretty much creates a wall.
Okay.
Well,
Okay. Go ahead.
So if the trees are part of the tree plan for the subdivision, it'd be the responsibility of the HOA to maintain those trees. Your opinion?
No, it's the responsibility of the property owner. And we've placed the condition that it would be the responsibility of the property owner or HOA to maintain these trees along that fence. So if the tree dies, it's got to be replaced.
Okay. I was just looking at sight distance from the intersection, and then eventually my department's going to have to notify someone to trim a tree.
Yeah. I would start with the homeowner.
The trees, have they been verified with respect to the right-of-way?
Not at this point. We can go out there after the meeting and measure the right of way and see where they're at.
Okay.
It's our understanding they're on their property.
Okay, do you have anything else to add? Okay. Ma'am, do you have anything you'd like to add?
Just for the same reasons that I already stated, we wanted it for safety reasons mainly, and like they already said, the trees would be covering it, so it's not like you'd be able, it wouldn't make the area look unattractive because it would be covered.
Okay.
What type of fence is it?
It's
It's
Wood
a
privacy
6-foot
fence?
high wooden privacy fence.
Is it opaque? Is it opaque?
It's opaque. I believe it's dual-sided. It'll have a finished side on the outside and a finished side on the inside.
Okay. Stay close because we're going to need to talk to you in just a minute and tell you what's getting ready to happen. But I do need to find out if there's anybody here that wants to speak on this. This is a public hearing. If there's anyone else in chambers that would like to speak on this matter, please step to the podium. Seeing none, ma'am, if you could return to the podium. By procedure, the License and Variance Board hears variance requests on a regular basis. However, if there's any opposition by any citizens, this item automatically gets moved in front of the City Council. We do not hear items that have public opposition, and we do have public opposition on record. So we're not going to approve this. We're not going to deny this. We're going to, in a minute, push this on up to the mayor and City Council, and you can work with community development, and they'll advise you when this gets on a City Council meeting agenda, and it'll be heard there, which is always the first. They meet on the first and third Monday nights at 7:30 p.m. in this very room. So that's how to proceed from there. Yes, Rusty.
I was just going to, we can we can schedule it for the April 15th mayor and council meeting. That'll give us adequate time to post the property and provide adequate public notification.
We will attempt to get that on April 15th. Understand sometimes the city council agendas are set, outside our control, but we'll do everything we can to push this forward for you. Okay?
I think we were scheduled to close on April 8th on the house, so I don't know if how that's gonna affect the.
I don't know if this affects the closing or not. It's a variance, really. That's your variance. I don't know that has anything to do.
Okay.
I'm not an attorney, so I couldn't tell you. But that might be something you want to talk to your attorney about. And like I said, we'll move it as fast as we can to the city council. But when there's opposition, it needs to go in front of them.
Okay.
And you probably need to speak to your city council member also and be in touch with them, and
Okay.
so that this issue can be resolved. At this point, entertain a motion.
Jeffrey, did you have anything?
Sure.
Go ahead with this. It's something about the next item.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion that the LMV board pass on the hearing to mayor and council for the April 15th meeting, variance request V13-014, the approval for an increase in the maximum allowed height for a fence in the front yard from 4 feet to 6 feet at 0.15 acre land lot 446 for Eliza and Josh Woody property at 996 Turner Drive.
Second motion.
Just for clarity, what is the terminology? Move this item to the mayor and council agenda? Pass, what's the? Okay.
The board refers it to the mayor and council.
Okay.
Per the procedures, the board is referred to the mayor and council.
Is that still your motion?
Still is my motion to
Refer.
to.
No second. Okay. All those in favor? That's approved 3-0. Good luck.
Thank you.
Chief, before we move on Paul's hearings, I suggest we take a couple of minutes of executive session to discuss some procedural matters.
Okay.
Make a motion to move to executive session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. That's approved 3-0. We will be in executive session until further notice.
Sorry, we'll be back in just a minute. Super. Thank you.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Got a motion to reconvene?
Motion to continue out of executive session.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to reconvene in the regular session, the License Variance Board. All those in favor? That's approved 3-0. We are back in regular session. The next item on the agenda is a show cause hearing for alcohol beverage violation at Red Lobster number 0392 located at 2579 Cobb Parkway. Alan M., and I apologize ahead of time, Brochu, the agent. If we could, I'd like to turn this over at this point to the city's attorney, deputy attorney, Jeffrey, to get everybody sworn in and run this proceedings for us.
Sure. This counsel is representing Red Lobster in this, so I'm going to let Counsel Michael Sard run his own portion of this. But so if everyone who's going to testify in this will step up, I'll swear you all. Yeah, sure. So, just step on up here, and I'll swear you all together. Or if you prefer to swear them, then that's fine with us too. Yeah. All right. Sure. If you just raise your right hand, please, all of you. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give in this matter will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If y'all sit down for a second, we'll go through with Gerald first. Let me see that narrative. All right. Please, obviously, the board knows who you are, Officer Williams, but please state your name for the record.
Officer Gerald Williams, Smyrna PD.
How long have you been employed with Smyrna Police Department?
Approximately 7 years.
Louder, Joe.
Approximately 7 years.
And how long in total have you been a law enforcement officer?
Approximately 17 years.
And what sort of cases or work do you do with Smyrna PD?
I do plainclothes or undercover type work, UC work.
All right. Let me direct your attention back to the 19th of February, approximately 8 p.m. That's 2000 hours. Where were you, and what did you observe happen?
I was conducting an alcohol compliance check throughout the city of Smyrna through various businesses, and at this particular time, at approximately 10 o'clock that night, approximately 8 o'clock that night, I was conducting one at the Red Lobster on 41 or Cobb Parkway.
And was the Red Lobster on Cobb Parkway the only compliance check you conducted that night, or was it a series of checks?
There was a series of checks. We checked approximately 15 to 16 different locations that particular evening.
And what's the regular procedure that you have for conducting these checks? Do you do them yourself, or do you do them through some other method?
Typically, I will use an undercover informant. They usually come as volunteers. They're not working off charges, and they are under the age of 21.
So were you using a confidential informant that night?
Yes, sir.
And your informant was under the age of 21, so was not legally eligible here in Georgia to purchase alcoholic beverages?
That's correct.
All right. And was this individual, who we won't otherwise identify, but they were carrying a standard Georgia under 21 driver's license? Is that correct?
That's correct. He was driving he carried the new driver license with Georgia, the vertical up and down. You read up and down, and it does state under the age of 21 on there.
Okay, so it's oriented differently than my driver's license or yours, which is kind of landscape format.
That's correct.
Okay, and so where were you, and what did you observe happen?
The informant went into the business and he walked to the bar. The informant was instructed to order a driver license, and if the event that they asked for his ID, he would provide them with the current Georgia driver license that he had. He was contacted by the cashier, Anika McCoy, and he ordered a Bud Light beer. At this time, I walked into the business as well.
So the cashier looked at the license.
That's correct. Okay. She looked at the driver's license, and she gave the license back, and she placed a beer in front of him, at which time I made contact with both her and the manager of the business.
So were you actually able to observe this happening, or were you monitoring it in some other fashion?
Both. I typically like to be in a location where I can actually see them, make the transaction, as well as recording it both on audio and video recordings.
Right. So in the records of the police department here in Smyrna, there are both audio and video recordings of this transaction, right?
That's correct.
All right. So what did you do once you had made contact with the cashier?
I let her know that she did in fact sell alcohol to a minor, and we spoke with the manager and went to a room off to the side where I wrote her citations for selling alcohol to a minor.
All right. And what happened to her then?
She was arrested and taken to the Smyrna jail.
Okay. Does counsel have any questions for Officer Williams?
We do not.
Okay. Thank you, Gerald. I think if I may state a stipulation for the record, I'll stipulate that Red Lobster is not questioning or contesting any part of the accuracy of the police report as it appears in the police department records. Is that correct? Is that accurately stated?
We're not objecting to any of the testimony that Officer Williams offered.
Okay. All right. Thank you. So if I can have your folks come up now, we'll
make a presentation.
Yeah. In fact, we don't usually have represented by counsel. Why don't we just have them come up? You make your presentation, and then we'll take whatever questions the board has. Do y'all have any questions for Officer Williams today?
No.
Okay. Yeah. So this meeting is being recorded, so and it's kind of a pain to circle around up here, but if each of you could speak clearly into the microphone, I get admonished about this every time.
I'll do my best. Good morning. My name is Michael Sard. I'm an attorney at Sard and Leff Attorneys. We represent GMRI Inc., which is the owner of Red Lobster, and we've represented GMRI for more than 15 years. I've got with me today Al Brochu. Al, if you could just stand over here. Al is the agent on this license, and he is the director of operations for Red Lobster. I also have Kim Griffin. Kim Griffin's here. Kim is the general manager of this particular Red Lobster here in Smyrna. So I'm going to kind of explain to you what happened from our perspective. I'll review with you our policies and procedures that we have and offer them in mitigation. I'm going to share with you some documentation that I'll refer to, and then I'll give you all the opportunity to ask questions of Ms. Griffin and Mr. Brochu, if that's okay with you.
Fine.
All right. And so, if may I approach and give you these documents?
Come on.
You're welcome. Okay, so unfortunately we're here today because a nearly 8-year employee of Red Lobster, Anika McCoy, allegedly sold beer to an underage City of Smyrna confidential informant. She violated the law. It was in violation of our company policy. It was in violation of her training. And as I mentioned, I'll say again, we do not contest that allegation. Ms. McCoy had no previous employment issues with our client. She was a good employee. According to the facts of the case you heard, she requested and viewed the identification of the underage person. She claimed to us, to our client, when they interviewed her after the fact, that she had misread the date of birth on the driver's license. You heard the testimony that it was an under 21 driver's license. She's trained on what that looks like. She was terminated on the spot, notwithstanding her longevity and her great record with our client. They have a very hard policy. You serve alcohol to an underage person, you get terminated. Red Lobster has operated in Smyrna for more than 20 years. And we're here offering you information and mitigation pursuant to Code Section 6-163, and we ask that you consider these mitigating factors when you make your determination in this case. Our client has simple written policies. They're designed to effectively prevent the sale of alcohol to underage people. The very front of the package that I've given you is portions of a certified trainer guide, front of the house service assistant and server training. So our training really starts with the trainers and management. We have certain staff who trains our staff in alcohol awareness. They are given a policy manual and training materials. So what I've given to you is some select pages of those materials. If you look in the upper right corner, there's a page number 105. I think it's the fourth page in of the materials I've given you. And that is the beginning of our responsible alcohol service training materials for our trainers and management. And you'll see that there are 4 basic rules that Red Lobster has. One, it is a company policy that we request ID from anyone who orders alcoholic beverages who appears to be less than 30 years of age. Number 2, we never serve anyone who appears to be intoxicated. Number 3, we always discourage intoxicated people from driving. And number 4, we never serve a known alcoholic. So these aren't all the rules, but these are the 4 most basic rules and kind of the beginning of our policy. We train our staff through various written materials, through a responsible alcohol sales and service online module. There's a computer training that they have to participate in. They must sign off on these written policies. And they must complete periodic re-education. So this isn't a one-time thing when someone comes on board, but the alcohol awareness training goes on periodically while someone is employed at Red Lobster. So kind of moving through the packet, you'll find another blue page. So after we've trained our trainers and our management staff, the next thing we do is we train our crew. So this is the crew member guide. This is the guide that's given to our servers, our bartenders, our front of the house staff. And in these, it is I've only given you like 1 page of this, but it is a large guide. It has all sorts of information about how they conduct themselves in the workplace, how they do their jobs, and significantly for our purposes here, it provides the alcohol policies. And you'll see on there's a document, page 63. That is a document that each of the servers sign. It acknowledges the policy and the items I just described with you. Failure to abide by these policies results in termination, and that's what happened to Ms. McCoy in this case. She was terminated. The next page is a responsible service of alcohol page, and this is a several-page document. This is the information that staff member would see when they are training online, if they're on the online module. And you can see it's a pretty substantial document. It has information about carding. It has information about acceptable forms of identification. It asks questions and tests our staff on company policy. It has questions about signs of fake or tampered identification. So we're really giving our staff the tools that they need to prevent underage people from receiving alcoholic beverages. It provides information, then questions the staff member about how alcoholic beverage consumption affects the body and the brain. It cautions about higher alcohol content alcoholic beverages. So someone getting a gin and tonic would be consuming less alcohol than someone who orders, for example, Long Island iced tea. So this is information that we're imparting to our staff so that they know what they're serving the guests and what to look out for to prevent guests from becoming intoxicated. It also provides our staff with means of discussing with guests our policies. So if a guest has questions, why am I being carded? Why are you asking me these questions? Why are you getting a manager? Because I've ordered a couple of drinks. It equips our staff to communicate with our guests to let them know why we do these things, and so that the staff is fully capable of dealing with our guests. Our policy at this store is a little more strict than it is in system-wide. As you see, system-wide, our policy is that we card everyone who appears to be less than 30 years of age. But Ms. Griffin, who's been at the store for 2 years, decided that she wanted to be more rigid than that. So with the support of the company, their policy is that anyone who orders an alcoholic beverage at this Ruby Tuesday in Smyrna is required to produce identification.
You did it
I'm sorry,
again.
I apologize.
Take it you represent Ruby Tuesday.
I represent Ruby Tuesday, and I must say, just
It's okay.
as a sidebar, the very first underage case I did in Smyrna in this room was some 15 years ago with a Ruby Tuesday, and for whatever reason, it is stuck in my mind when I was a young lawyer.
I thought maybe you were just checking to see if we were listening.
So I apologize. Maybe I should listen if I'm listening myself. But thank you. This is about Red Lobster, and I apologize to both Red Lobster and Ruby Tuesday, and to you as well. So in this case, Ms. McCoy's most recent training was on October 10th of 2012. So after the materials that I've provided you with these questions, a pre-test that's given, and then a post-test that's given of the staff. So you see there's a lot of testing. There's a spreadsheet that's from Ms. McCoy's personnel file. And on the spreadsheet, it shows the various testing that Ms. McCoy has undergone as a staff member at Red Lobster. And you'll see there's a highlighted section of Lesson 3 on responsible alcohol service. That is a 3-part module. She took all three of these tests. Her cumulative score, which you see highlighted, was 100%. So on October 10th of 2012, just about 5 months before this incident happened, Ms. McCoy had scored a perfect score on the test that you saw before you. So, and from our client's perspective, this was an employee who knew her job. She was witnessed doing her job. We had no reason to think that she wasn't going to do her job. In addition to this training, there are other reminders that go on each and every day in the store about reminding our staff to card people. So it's not just we card everybody, but there are visual reminders and giving them tools to help them card. One of the items I've put here in the package. This is the screen of the point of sale system at Red Lobster, and what happens at the beginning of every shift, server comes on and logs into this system, and you'll see in red writing in the upper right-hand corner on the screen. It's on the screen every time is the date of birth that someone needs to be to purchase alcoholic beverages. And the example I've given you was September 13th, 1991. So someone had to be born on or before that date to purchase alcoholic beverages. This screen is visible not just when they come into work every day, but for every food order or drink order that they put into the system. So they'll go to a table, they'll get an order, and they'll have to go to the system, they'll have to log in. At the time they log in, this number's out there as a reminder. Every single time, multiple times a day, the date of birth that someone needs to be to lawfully purchase alcoholic beverages. There is another document that we use every day at Red Lobster. It's called our Lobster Talk. What happens is that our management staff gets with our servers before every single shift, goes over some various culinary items and other items that are of importance on that particular day, and they give them in writing a sheet, and I'll bring this up to you in a moment, but they do this every single day, and the servers carry this around with them on their in their booklets while they're serving on the floor. And you'll see at the bottom of each of these items, it says check ID for anyone who looks under 30. Again, this is our company policy. Must be born on or before, and it gives a date of birth. So this is a reminder that they're literally carrying with them every single moment that they're in the store. If I may approach, and I'll share these with you. These are the lobster talks for this is today and yesterday. So you can see that part of these materials, they don't change. They are there every single day.
That's fine.
That's okay.
If you all could pass that around. So I'll direct your attention. It's the bottom line on that, and that is static. It's on there each and every day. Something else that Red Lobster does for its alcohol awareness and to prevent alcohol from getting into the possession of underage people, they use different color straws in their drinks. When an alcoholic beverage is prepared, it is given a black straw. If it is a non-alcoholic beverage, it is given a clear straw. So that is also helpful as a reminder to the servers, but it's also helpful to management to go back behind the servers to make sure that the guests who have alcoholic beverages are of the correct age. So if there's someone who appears to be underage and they've got a black straw in their drink denoting a alcoholic beverage, management can go back behind to that server and say, hey, did you card that person? We want to make sure. And so that's a part of a check and balance system. We also use different types of glasses for alcoholic beverages and non-alcoholic beverages. So that's another visual cue to the staff about carding, and also another check and balance for management to go back behind the servers to make sure that that underage people don't have alcoholic beverages. We also provide ID books to the staff. There's I'll get to a photograph of what one looks like in a moment, but I suspect you're familiar with them. But there are books that have all the driver's licenses and IDs of every single state. And so those are provided to each of the staff members at Red Lobster. So if it's not just Georgia driver's licenses we're looking at, but also out-of-state driver's licenses if a guest comes in from out of state. Also, one of these visual cues at our service bar where alcoholic beverages are prepared, when the alcoholic beverages are delivered out to the servers, the service bar is designated into two different areas, and they're color-coded areas. So there's one area where the alcoholic beverages are placed, and there's another area where non-alcoholic beverages are placed. So a server coming to the bar to receive their order, in addition to the glasses and the straws, won't confuse what's an alcoholic beverage and what's a non-alcoholic beverage, to make sure that an underage person doesn't get the wrong drink. So the last item in here is really an email form, and it's the last 3 pages of the handout that I've given you. Another thing that Red Lobster does is it transmits seasonal information to its staff, to its management staff, to share with the on-site staff. And you'll see in this email, this is from March 11th, just a couple of weeks ago. This was in anticipation of spring break, where more guests are traveling to our region of the United States. The Orlando division includes the Smyrna store. And it goes over these best practices as a reminder to do all these things that we just discussed. And you'll see there are photographs in this email of the various things, everything from the test to to a visual reminder of carding a guest, to the Lobster Talk exhibit I just gave to you, the ID booklet, and it even shows you this area of the service bar, where in this case it says NAB, non-alcoholic beverage. So we've got the segregated service bar. These policies are very clearly communicated to our staff. The employees take over 30 hours of training. The training is mandatory. It has been effective. As we said, Ms. Griffin, prior to this incident, goes above and beyond that policy by requiring that her staff card everybody. In this case, Ms. McCoy did did card the guest, but she made a mistake, and notwithstanding her long employment with Red Lobster, she was terminated immediately. And this was even after scoring 100% on the test just a few months ago. So as you can see, we spend a tremendous amount of time and resources on training. The actual dollar figure that Red Lobster spends is more than $500,000 a year in developing its training materials. So it's something that the company takes very seriously and puts a lot of money behind. These servers are constantly reminded visually, orally, on the computer screens, in paper materials about carding people and the appropriate days. We give them, we think, all the tools that they need to not serve alcohol to an underage person. From a company standpoint, we're not sure that there's much else that we can do. We keep trying. We keep revisiting our policies. We do try to improve them. I think these these items where you've got different straws and even different items in the service area, in my experience, is something new. I'm not familiar with any other businesses that are doing this. And so, Red Lobster is, in our estimation, ahead of the curve in this industry in alcohol awareness. We do appreciate that the city of Smyrna arrests the person who sells alcohol to an underage person. We think it sends an important message to the staff, not only that we're not going to tolerate that conduct, but that neither will the city. And unfortunately, this happened, but the arrest clearly is another level of communication to staff that the conduct won't be tolerated. So in light of these mitigating circumstances and this information, we request that in lieu of a suspension, perhaps a probation or some lesser penalty be put against our client. Mr. Brochu and Ms. Griffin are both available to answer your questions, and I'll try to answer whatever questions I can. Thank you for your time.
Okay. I guess this would be for Ms. Griffin. It's been your testimony today that the employee, Ms. McCoy, was an 8-year employee. Is that correct?
Yes.
And you've also submitted documentation, which shows that she successfully has gone through your alcohol server lessons. I think on the 10th of October. Was she a new server? Did she serve in some other capacity in her previous years, and she's a new server, or is this type of testing something that she had done before?
The alcohol training, it was a revisit throughout the whole staff. So my whole staff did it, during that week of October.
So she had done it before?
She had done it before, yes.
And so she was not a brand new server of alcohol?
No, she was not.
Okay. And how often does your company require your employees who serve alcohol to go through this training?
It's at least once a year. We do a recertification on several of the things, the key areas that affect the guests, but it's about once a year we do a recertification with all front of the house. They have to retake the test. They don't take the test and pass the test with a 90 or above. We actually don't let them work the floor until they go ahead and certify that.
And that was your personal standard is 90 or above, or your professional standard is 90% or above, or else they can't serve until they get above that?
Right. Okay,
well, and it was also part of your testimony that although the company has a 30 or under policy, or anybody that looks under the age of 30, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but that you as the manager had decided to be more stringent, and help me remember, is it that what is your more stringent policy?
I require that anybody that orders any alcohol have a valid ID on their person. So I have bartenders and servers check ID for anybody that orders alcohol.
So would it be accurate to say that based on that policy that everybody gets carded?
Correct.
So how do you enforce that as a manager?
Well, it's in the training, and then we do our lobster talks. So, it's given through the training. All the management knows about it, and we speak to our crew daily throughout lobster talks about that.
Okay. Okay.
What was the impact on the staff after this event took place and the employee was arrested? Was there any?
Absolutely. That happened probably between 8 and 8:30 that evening, so everybody knew about it. I mean, once something happens like that, it's pretty shocking, and, they understand the consequences of what's going to happen.
If I may, we've retrained our staff since this incident. We've sat down with each staff member one-on-one to remind them about the import of our policies and enforcing our policies and making sure that they're carding people who order alcoholic beverages, that they're reading the IDs, that they're paying close attention to these.
Chief, I don't have anything more for them. Let's just keep taking board questions if there are any more.
Do you have any more?
Yeah. Ms. Griffin, do you hold a pouring license at this facility?
I do.
Mr. Brochure, you're the agent. Do you hold a license in other Red Lobsters anywhere else?
This one in Austell.
And that's it?
That's it.
You've held the license since when?
Probably about 8 years now.
How involved are you with this facility?
I'm involved with all the managers in the training, the making sure that we reemphasize the policies. We send out communications. We have a front of the house communication board. We'll send out an update and say, I need you to post this for 2 weeks. The next 2 weeks, we want you to emphasize responsible alcohol sales over these 2 week period times. And that could be randomly like the first 2 weeks of the holidays, where maybe you might have an increased traffic of that. I mean, we're very responsible in what we do as far as trying to keep the managers to make sure they're front mind, because people do make mistakes and people do take a shortcut now and then. And it's our responsibility to do our best to kind of keep reminding them continuously. There are consequences that does happen if you do make mistakes. And, it's just not an okay thing to do. So we do.
Well, I guess how involved, in other words, how often are you on the premises?
I have 9 locations, so it's probably every 2 to 3 weeks sometimes 4 weeks at the max. I do try to attend some of the meetings at a different location. Every time we have a front of the house meeting, I attend one of the restaurant's meetings and personally get involved with those too.
How are you notified by the meetings?
Well, we schedule them quarterly. There's a quarterly meeting every quarter in every restaurant. We send a script out, and even in some of those scripts, part of one of those scripts might be readdress responsible alcohol sales. But it's when we change promotions, change different, menus and stuff like that, we will do a training session in the restaurant. It's usually about a 2-hour session in the mornings from like 8:30 to 10:30, where we'll bring everybody in the front of the house in uniform, and then we do the training.
May I ask Mr. Brochu a question that's related to this? Thank you. Mr. Brochu, do you monitor the testing of alcohol awareness for each of the staff members?
I get a printout, when we do ask for the recertification, I'll get a printout of which restaurants have not complied 100% on that, and I follow up with the general managers, making sure that they're on top of it. But yeah, I follow up on all the restaurants. They send out an email to us saying, here's the compliance for your restaurant, here's who hasn't certified on the testing yet, and then I follow up with the general managers on that.
And you also review the test scores as well?
Whatever's sent to me, if it's sent and the scores are there, yes, I do review those.
Well, what's the relationship between you and the general managers? How much authority do you have over them, or do they have over you, or is it just community?
I'm directly responsible for their performance, the performance of the restaurants, and I do meetings, I do training sessions with the general managers. We usually do a monthly meeting with general managers where we'll go to one location, bring all the general managers in, for my region, and we'll discuss that. We'll discuss all these pertinent issues, responsible sales. We'll talk about, an issue that just happened, how are we going to prevent that in the future, and those type of things.
So the 9 stores you have, those general managers report to you?
Yes.
Okay.
And in addition to, all of the documentation that's been provided this morning by council, do you have any internal compliance control measures in place in addition to your training? Do you guys do any kind of undercover compliance checks in any of your locations?
We don't do for alcohol sales. I mean, we do our own total quality, which part of the total quality would be spend some time behind the bar, look at the bar systems. I require them to all. We have a bar log at every bar, and they should be logging situations every day that occur. We have, it's laid out in script, specifically how that bar should operate, what it should look like, all the way from coding, dating, product, to responsible sales. It's there. It's on every screen every day when they log on.
Right, but you do not conduct undercover internal compliance checks for alcohol service.
We don't do that internally, no, sir.
Okay.
What was learned from this particular incident? Is there any additional information that the company learned that they could use to stop it in the future, or was this just one of those?
We post actually post the driver's license, the red and green driver's license, and have really emphasized that the need. And I actually sent out a copy of both the red, green, because those are still in existence, as well as the new driver's license to every location in the state of Georgia, so that they can post, not just my restaurants, but the other directors as well, so we can post those in our communication area, so it's got a visual picture for the servers to say, here's the new driver's license, here's the old, here's the thing. It's not about figuring a date or calculating the age. It's about, you need to understand what the driver's license is, which if it's red or it's vertical, it's a no.
What how old is the training manual that you showed us? How long has, I guess particularly, how old's this test? If I worked there 8 years and you gave me the same test over and over again?
No, we update that on probably, this is maybe a year and a half old.
So the employees really do have to know it. They can't just memorize it.
Absolutely.
This is not something they can.
Not something that, like I say, it's not like she would take that test 8 years ago and we never revisit that. Everyone on that crew is revisited annually on that.
Okay.
And the test questions are changed and the materials are updated periodically. So something that someone had 8 years ago or even 2 years ago has changed.
Yeah, and every time we change our service mode or service, we update the training materials to support the service modes that we're doing, whether it's a service assistant now where we had bussers, and all the training materials are updated to support that.
I know you probably can't answer, or maybe you can answer this with hard numbers, but I would like to kind of get a feel for you. This is the record we have indicates that this location had a previous issue back in November of 2009, so about 3 years before since we've had an issue there.
And I remember the details on that as well. It was 2 people behind the bar, again, the same situation. One person went over to take the order, looked at a driver's license, and then turned around and told the other bartender, can you get a beer for them? So same scenario, but we ended up terminating both bartenders, on the spot, for that. But it was just one of those things where they were reminded, they were talked to, they knew what the expectations were. They just didn't follow it. And the other one trusted the other bartender and ended up losing.
Well, I guess more along those lines, you said you are responsible for 9 stores. How often is this occurring everywhere else? I mean, are we the only ones?
I had one in Athens several years back.
So it's not a regular occurrence?
No.
It's not something you have to deal with 2 or 3 times a year?
Absolutely not.
Just to clarify with the record here, Mr. Brochu, our record shows you have been the agent since
2010.
12/8/2010.
I've had those for 8 years.
Right, so that's correct, right?
That's correct,
Since December of 2010. So the previous violation was before you became the agent. Is that right? And Ms. Griffin, when did you become the general manager?
2010, October.
Okay, so the previous violation was before either one of you was responsible for this location.
Right.
The same owner, but a different agent, a different general manager.
Any more questions?
So your involvement with Red Lobster is well and above just an agent for the alcohol sales.
Yes.
He's just not an agent in name. He participates in the
Do the hiring, the training of managers, the meetings for managers, the recertification. We do an annual recertification. We call it team alignment every year, where I'll bring every manager in 3 separate days, and we'll spend 8 hours recertifying all of our procedures, policies, all the way from security. And we have some of the tightest security and life safety programs out there. We require 3 people to enter a building, 3 people to leave. We've got one of the lowest rates in the industry in compliance with robberies and accidents and that. So, we have, and they all know, the violation is you enter a building with less than 3 people, you will be terminated. You're in the building and you get locked in, or you realize that one of the crew members left and you're in the building with another crew member. You can't leave without calling the police or notifying myself personally, notifying our corporate security department, or you'll get terminated. I mean, we have strict standards when it comes to responsibility, alcohol, all of our things, even health and total quality.
What and that was something that came up earlier. We were talking about some of your training manuals refer to, if this occurs, notify your manager. If this occurs, notify your manager. Is there always a manager at the store? Obviously, she can't be there every time the store's open.
4 managers at most all locations. Some managers, when higher volume, will have 5, but there's always a manager on duty.
Okay. So if the store's open, there's a manager
There's
there?
a manager there.
Okay. Okay. Do you have anything else you'd like to add before we go into executive session?
Thank you.
Jeffrey?
I don't have anything.
I would just the and I had a hard time with this even last night, just thinking about it's not just the one person made a mistake or whatever, but what happens to the rest of the people that are doing their job, that are complying, and we do something to take that from them because they're doing their job. I would feel bad for them.
I understand.
Okay, and I apologize. I had to just move locations for technical difficulty reasons. But at this time, I'd like to make a motion that we convene in executive session.
Second motion.
A motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor? We'll be in executive session until further notice.
Motion to reconvene.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to reconvene at 11:20. All those in favor? That's approved 3-0. We are back in regular session at this point. I'd like to call on board member Acree.
Okay, if we could have you guys come back up to the podium, please. Okay, so in just a minute, I'm going to make a motion that this board vote to give you guys a 1-year probation on your license. But before I make the motion, I wanted to tell you something you probably already know. The city of Smyrna takes the responsible service of alcohol very seriously, as you can tell. But having said that, and having heard all the testimony and the documentation that you've given, we wanted you to know that the city of Smyrna appreciates the efforts that your company has taken to attempt to ensure that this never happens. I don't know that that's possible. Probably isn't. But I can't really, and I think we all agree, we can't really see how you could have gone any farther. I think the term gold standard was probably mentioned at one point. So we wanted you guys to know that we do take this seriously. We are going to, I am going to make a motion for a 1-year probation in just a minute for us to contemplate and to vote on. But it is appreciated by the city of Smyrna that we do have companies out there that are responsible in their policies and their day-to-day procedures, their training, and everything that you've done and that you've testified for. So we appreciate that. Okay.
Yeah, add something to that. I want to also qualify that by saying that when the board considers what to do about these situations, we strongly consider how much prevention you've gone through and that he's talked about. We hear cases regularly where there's not near as much. And during this probation period of the next year, if we hear your case again, if we have to hear another case from there, I don't know that the prevention program that you prevented will carry near the weight that it carried today, because it will actually start to prove to us that maybe that program's not working. I don't see how it couldn't work. But we do recognize that employees are employees and people make mistakes, and that there's only so much the management can do. And for that reason, and we strongly consider that when we figure out what we're going to do, what action we're going to take against the license, the privilege license. And that I want to make it very clear that the reason why there's not a suspension for this is because of your prevention measures and your training. Had you had a lack of that, I seriously doubt the board would have considered something as lenient as just a probation. So keep up the good work. Thank you for your work.
Thank you.
Anything else? All right, so I'd like to make a motion in reference to license 2013-07, show cause for alcohol beverage violation for Red Lobster, number 0392, located at 2579 Cobb Parkway. Mr. Alan M. Brochu is the agent. I'd like to make a motion that this board place on probation for 1 year their alcohol service, beginning with today's date.
Second motion.
Have a motion and a second to place the privilege license for Red Lobster at 2579 Cobb Parkway for 1 year probation beginning today. All those in favor? Need a voting screen. There we go. That's approved 3-0. Albeit a small penalty, it is a penalty. You do have the right to appeal it to the mayor and council within 10 days in writing to the city clerk's office.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is LIC 2013-08. It's a show cause hearing for an alcohol beverage violation at Circle M, 2535 Cobb Parkway. Edward Hong is the agent. Jeffrey, you want to swear everybody?
Yeah, that's fine. Anyone for Circle M who's going to give any testimony on this, please step up. let's just take the oath, and then I'll have you introduce yourself when you actually have something to say. So Gerald's already sworn. If y'all raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear the testimony you give in this matter should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. All right. Thanks. If y'all just sit down for a minute. All right. So Officer Williams, you have already been sworn today and explained, for the purposes of the record, who you are and what sort of work you're doing. I want to have you think back to November the 28th of last year, I think just before 8 p.m. If you'll tell the board where you were then and what you were doing.
Again, I was doing an alcohol compliance check throughout the city of Smyrna. At this particular time, I was at 2535 Cobb Parkway. Is that the right one?
Yeah, I think so. Okay. We're sorry for the confusion. We get these mixed up. Yes, that looks to be correct. So
2535 Cobb Parkway?
Yes.
Okay.
And that's at Circle M?
Yes.
Okay. And what were you doing there?
Again, I was conducting an alcohol compliance check throughout the city of Smyrna using an undercover confidential informant with the city of Smyrna.
How old was the informant that you had with you?
He was 19 years old.
Okay. And this was an individual who was carrying a valid Georgia driver's license?
That's correct.
And was it the old style license, horizontal, or was it the new vertical license that reads under 21?
The new vertical.
So where were you exactly, and what, if you were observing the informant, what did you observe the informant do?
I was sitting in an unmarked vehicle in the parking lot, and I sent the informant inside the business.
Could you see inside?
That's correct.
But was the informant recording this via audio and/or visual, video recording?
Yes, he was.
Okay. So what did the informant do?
He went into the business, and again, I told him to order a 24-ounce Bud Light beer in a bottle. He made contact with the clerk, and you have Rosalie Ortiz. He provided the clerk with marked money that we provided from the city of Smyrna. She returned change to him, and as well as the beer.
So did the clerk ask to see the informant's license?
Yes.
And did the clerk examine the license?
That's correct.
And still sell the alcohol?
That's correct.
All right. So after you observed this happen, what did you do then?
I made contact with Ortiz at the registry, advised that they did in fact sell alcohol to a minor, and they were placed under arrest and cited.
And so what happened with for the clerk then?
They were arrested and taken to Smyrna Police Department or Smyrna Jail.
Taken to the Smyrna Jail. Was there anything else relevant to what you observed that you'd like to get before the board?
No.
If anyone from Circle M wants to ask Officer Williams any questions, you can ask them now. If there's any part of his testimony that you think is incorrect or that needs to be clarified, go ahead and do that, and then we'll have some questions from the board if they have any.
We have no questions.
All right, so let's have the record show Circle M declines to ask Officer Williams anything. If anyone from the board has any questions for him, we'll take them now.
Any questions?
No.
I don't have any questions from Gerald.
Okay, thank you, Officer Williams. If y'all will step up here right now, let me first of all, if each one of you who's going to say something, if you'll state your name for the record and spell it so that we get it spelled clearly in the record, and also say what your responsibility with respect to this location is.
My name is Edward Hong, Edward, Hong, Hong. I'm Vice President of Retail Operations for Clipper Petroleum, also the agent for this location.
How long have you been the agent there? And I can refresh your memory if you don't actually.
I've been the agent there for, I guess, about 3 months. 2 months.
No, that's, isn't it?
Oh, 12. 1 year and 2 months.
Okay. So, just for the record, if this other gentleman could just state your name.
Yes, Frank Noble, FRANKNOBLE.
And what is your relationship to this business?
I'm the store manager.
Okay. Just to reiterate, Mr. Hong, you don't question the testimony of Officer Williams that an underage individual was sold an alcoholic beverage on the date and time stated.
That's correct. We do not dispute the testimony.
Okay, I think let's just have questions from the board for the agent.
Let's
here,
start out with what's
or
the cross
manager.
street?
Herodian Road,
Okay, so this is at Cobb Parkway and Herodian Way?
the BP station, yes.
Okay, all right. Before I get them into their prevention, you have any questions?
Just about that. Go ahead.
Can you explain to the board, well, first of all, let me ask you something else before you start explaining that. I'm looking at some notes here that's provided to us, and I need to find out and make sure that you agree with this. You were on probation when this happened. Is that true?
Officially, yes, we were on probation when this happened.
I can provide Mr. Hong. This is a summary of the city's official records here.
Yeah.
So on December 14th, the previous year, so 11 months previous, basically,
That is correct.
we had another issue there where a minor was sold alcohol.
Yeah, the probation period was still in effect. The incident, when that happened, was over a year ago. It happened in July of 2011.
Okay, so it was...
Well, just to clarify, you weren't the agent at that time, but the owner of the location was the same owner. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so the incident was over a year, but from the time the board heard it and took action was less than a year.
That is correct.
Okay. Can you tell us what you're doing to prevent this and why is it reoccurring?
Yes, I can. First, I'm going to present some documents to the board. The first two exhibits are policies and training that we go through with every employee at hiring, and then also that we do every 6 months. This is a statement of the policies with regard to restricted products at our store, which obviously includes alcohol and also includes tobacco. So that's clarified on Exhibit A, and this is specifically the acknowledgement in that Ms. Ortiz went through this training in October of 2012, approximately 1 month prior to the incident. The second document is a industry quiz that we have our employees also go through every 6 months. And in this case, Ms. Ortiz scored a perfect score. It's called Techniques of Alcohol Management, and that is documentation that of her taking that quiz. The next exhibit, which is labeled Alcohol Sales Training. Unfortunately, to be transparent, this is not training that Ms. Ortiz went through because she was a newer employee, but we do conduct, as a company, training 2 times a year for all of our employees, and this is just general training on a variety of topics. And in May of 2012, we had gone through one of the topics, one of the modules that we went through was regard to alcohol sales training and the importance of it. And I'm not going to walk through the whole module. It goes through our policies, but the most important piece that we try to advise and train our people on. Obviously, we have a very black and white policy in that we do ask employees, anybody who's wanting to purchase alcohol, they must ID them. They must card them regardless of how old they think they are. But which one would think would be very easy, but obviously we've run into a couple issues, and the other issue is lack of verification. But the thing that we take the Clipper Petroleum Circle M approaches each employee with is that we have to be corporate citizens. We have a moral responsibility to all the local communities that we serve to make sure that we do our part, that we do not contribute to anything that's going to cause the community to decline, and obviously that includes underage drinking and drinking to folks that could endanger the rest of the community. So, that's an approach that we try to impress upon with every one of our employees, and that's one of the modules that we went through in the past year during this twice-a-year training that we do with employees. The next exhibit, the next few exhibits are kind of basically, I guess, the reaction to the incident. Once it did happen, we did terminate Ms. Ortiz for this incident on the spot. So her separation notice is Exhibit D. The next document is, we immediately went into a root cause analysis. Why did this happen? And, the initial investigation, we feel like there was 3 key causes to this. I hate to give excuses, but, the event happened and there's nothing we can do about it. Our philosophy is let's make sure it does not happen again at this location or any of other. We have 28 other locations that we operate as well. The first thing is that, as the officer testified, she did ask for ID, which is our policy, but she did not verify the ID. And unfortunately, we have when somebody does purchase alcohol or tobacco, the cash register does prompt the employee to check for ID or ask for ID, which it did. She asked for ID. And the policy of our company is that they read the ID and enter the birth date into the point of sale. However, there is a glitch that with this software, which is, we are constrained because we're a BP store and their software updates. There's unfortunately a button that you can press on there called default to just basically bypass that. And, our measure, and this is something that we have, raised as an issue for a long time, even previous to this incident, on getting this fixed, because it is a problem. But our method of handling that is that the store managers need to just verify, spot check the journals, because we can see what birth dates they enter in there. Obviously, if somebody chooses to bypass it or press the default, it's a trend that can easily be tracked.
Well, just to clarify that from what you just said, is that's a BP, some BP corporate POS software that does that?
Correct. Okay. Yeah, we operate BP and Exxon stores, and we have the same point of sale systems, but there's different software patches that are specific to each of these proprietary brands. So at our Exxon stores, actually, we just got this, there's the same issue there, and they just actually upgraded their software, and this default key has been disabled. So, but anyway, I'm getting into more technicality, but, that was, one key piece of, why did this happen? The other key is that this was a short-term employee. She was only with us, I believe, 4 months, and this is a big vulnerability for us in that to impress upon our store managers that these are the folks that we need to give more training to and make sure that they adhere to the policies, and that these are the ones that we need to monitor a little bit more closely probably than a longer-term employee. And then the last piece of it, and it's just, it's a circumstance, and the store is busy all the time. But at the time this happened, this was during a period when I forget if it was Mega Millions or Powerball. Powerball was at near the record high, so there was a lot of traffic to the store. It is what it is. It's not an excuse, but the message I wanted to convey to my team was that, hey, even if it's this busy, we can't cut corners. We can't just, because, we do want to serve our customer in a convenient and fast fashion, but we do not do this at the cost of a situation like this. So that was immediate. You can see that email was sent out the following day after the incident on November 29th.
Let me ask something. You sent out an email saying this, that, and the other happened. When you have an employee in the store, a new employee, because you said this one was relatively new, do you emphasize to them, for specifically for here in Smyrna, they sell to an underage customer, they go to jail? They're going to get fired, but they're also going to get a few hours in Smyrna jail.
No, that's not something that we, unless Mr. Noble can testify to that. I cannot say that we specifically say that. We do, in most of the jurisdictions, if not all, I think our employees do understand that there is certainly personal consequences, most likely that they'll be arrested and possibly go into jail, but that there is certainly beyond just, the consequences for the company, but there is definitely, I think each of them understand that there is a personal consequence to that. The next exhibit, or next couple of exhibits, as you mentioned, we were in this situation previously. So as a manager, obviously part of our current system failed at this location, and what else can we do differently? And one of the things that we chose to do, and they're going to continue to do at this store, is to go above and beyond our internal training. So I immediately contacted the folks who conduct the venue alcohol sales, and we immediately signed up the employees for the next available class to attend the RAS class, training class there in Douglasville. So you can see that I reached out 2 days after the incident to Kerry Stump, and we signed up those individuals. And then later on, we had 2 other employees that were new employees and signed them up in a February class. So that's exhibits F and G. And then following that, you can see on exhibit H all of the certificates of training these are for all the employees that are currently at the store taking that have done that training. And finally, the last exhibit, as mentioned before, this is the second violation that we have had here in the last 18 months or so, and we disciplined Mr. Noble behind me with a 1-week suspension because of obviously the management of the restricted sales was a failure on his part with what's happened here. We do have, as I said, 28 other stores, and in the past year, this incident, and we did have one other incident in DeKalb County, but otherwise that's all this company has had. So it's very infrequent. Unfortunately, we've had two of the last 3 have been here.
On Exhibit H, the column.
Yes.
The column that says F or P. What are those initials? Stand for?
Full or part-time.
Okay.
I got a couple questions for you. You want to go first?
Question, I guess, probably for Mr. Noble. You've heard along with us what the testimony that Mr. Hong just gave, and he's referenced several times that the previous violation a little over a year ago, and now we have this one. And I appreciate the awareness from upper level management as given in the email the day after this last previous. You've identified these 3 points. But Mr. Noble, can you talk to us about from the store manager's perspective, after something like this happens and then upper level management sees that, well, these may be our weak points, can you talk about anything that's changed in the store? Especially now that we have these 3 possible reasons why something like this has happened. So talk to us about what has changed based off of those self-identified weaknesses, if you will.
Okay. When we first hired Ms. Ortiz, we explained to her about the policy, did a training, told her about if you sell underage customers, you would get fired, you would go to jail, and and she knew all those policies. She knew what's going to happen if she did it. It was a Wednesday night. I was there because we were selling a lot of Powerball tickets, and we was real busy. But since that happened, we monitor every employee. I talk to them every day about the policy. Check the ID, punch it in. Do not use a default key. We could try and disable it so we couldn't ever use it again. And unfortunately, she took advantage of, one of our.
So is the employee's ability to use this default key that you guys have talked about, does that still exist today?
Yes.
Right now, if they so chose, they could push the default key and surpass
Yes, but
internal
we're in the
control
process of trying to
measures.
get it disabled.
Is there any type of policy or practice at the store level that monitors how often an employee uses the default key?
Yes, we have an electric journal that we check every day to make sure no one's using that key.
Okay.
And
So you do you allow the use of the default key for anything, or have you said you can't use it?
Can't use it at all.
So you monitor that daily, is that right?
Yes, sir. And
What
if
do
I
you do if you find that somebody has used the default key?
If I found that they use it, I give them a verbal warning. Then next time it happens, I suspend them for 3 days without pay.
And the reason that I ask is that I'm trying to make reason of if it is part of your internal control measures to do these things with reference to the default key, how is it that she just chose to push it? I mean, I don't know that that's a question, an answer that you can, or question that you can answer, but we're looking at now the second violation, and it just happened to also be within a period of time in which you guys were under probation.
Yes. She knew better, and I asked her why she did it. She said she wasn't thinking. She had something else on her mind. But she's there to do a job, and she knew what the job was, and unfortunately she didn't do her job.
How many people have you suspended for using the default key?
Half of my crew, which is about 8 people, so 4 people.
So there's been 4 people over there suspended for 3 days for pressing that button.
Right. That's after it happened. So now everybody knows that key is not to be touched.
I understand that you don't control the software that's proprietary to BP, but it's hard for me to comprehend what the legitimate use of that would be. The whole point of that software package is to make them look at it. Why would you get a button that says, kind of like the Office Max button that says easy and put it right next to it? I can't understand I can't understand that. It would be similar that if we all had, I guess to put it in standard terms, that if we all had a button in our car and we were approaching a red light, we could change it to green if we felt like it that day. So you put a control in place, but put an override next to it. I just don't understand. I understand you're not responsible for that, but it baffles my mind, to be honest with you.
Preaching to the choir.
I understand. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Do you have any more questions, Board?
I don't.
Well, I mean, you were actually present during that day,
Yes, I just left a half an hour before it happened.
so you weren't present.
No, I left to go home about 6:30. It happened about 7.
How many people are there? Like when you leave to go home, is there ever one person in that store?
No, only overnight.
Overnight, there's one person?
Yes. During that shift, there was 3 people there.
Okay.
How many managers does the store have?
Just me and assistant manager.
And then what do you rotate? How does that work?
Usually
Rotate shifts?
we have a lead CSR that works in the afternoons, and he was present. So he actually wasn't, kind of overseeing the shift. But now I work in the morning. But I stayed all day because I knew we was going to be busy.
You hold a license?
Yes, I permit.
Yes, permit.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Was she permitted?
Yeah, she had a permit too.
Mr. Hong, are you?
Yeah.
What is your daily activity with that facility? Or what is your activity at all with that facility?
My activity, I have Mr. Nola reports to Territory Manager Sean Gilcar, who's behind, and Mr. Gilcar reports to me. And so my main communications to Mr. Gilcar and his counterparts, I probably am on site with the stores 1 to 2 times a month as far as that goes. But I stay pretty closely involved with a lot of with all the stores on really just kind of key activities, and this are key happenings, and this would obviously be one of those. And I'm an agent for this store and 2 other locations. that I have closer tabs on. So
Your testimony is you are at that store maybe once or twice a month.
physically, yes.
Do you hold a license to any other store in the city?
Excuse me?
Do you hold a license for any other store in the city?
Yes, we have a location on South Cobb, 5160 South Cobb Drive. It's a BP.
You have anything else you'd like to add?
Yes, we'd like to just conclude. We are incredibly apologetic and sorry that this incident happens. We apologize to the board. We apologize to the city of Smyrna and the citizens. It's something we don't tolerate, and we're sorry it happened. And as one of you may have stated, I wish I could guarantee that it will never ever happen again. We continue to make those efforts to do that. We do ask, with what we've done and how we've trying to change what we're doing, understanding that we were on probation technically when this happened for leniency as far as your determination, and that we do not consider this a very light matter. We take this very, very seriously, and we appreciate your consideration.
When this incident happened, when did you find out about it?
I found out about it at 8 o'clock that evening.
Do you know the employee?
No.
Any other questions from the board? Mr. Tucker, nothing from you?
Make a motion that we go into executive session.
Second.
A motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor? We'll be in executive session at 11:51.
Motion to reconvene.
Second.
Motion and second to reconvene. All those in favor? That's approved 3-0. We'll reconvene in a regular session at 11:55.
Mr. Hong and Mr. Noble, could you come back up to the podium, please? Before we hear the motion, just like you just heard in the previous case, I wanted to let you guys know that something you probably already know. The City of Smyrna takes the responsible sale of alcohol very seriously. And we deliberate when situations like this happen, what it is that we're going to do. That's our job. And we're faced with a situation where this is not a first violation. This is a second violation while you're under probation already. I appreciate the exhibits that you displayed to us, Mr. Hong, and I can say that from the corporate level, I think you guys have standards and practices and procedures in place, and that you guys are making an effort, and I applaud you for that. But I also would urge you to consider that maybe there's something broken. I'm not in your corporation, I don't know, but I would urge you to take a harder look because something's fallen through the cracks from upper management all the way down to the point of sale behind the counter. And I would urge you guys to take a harder look and try to come up with more control measures, different control measures. Okay? Thank you.
Make a motion that the agent license, Edward Hong, business license, or agenda license,
Privilege license.
LIC 2013-08 for the Circle M 2535 Cobb Parkway be suspended for 4 days. Those days start with April 12th at 12:01 a.m. through April 15th at 11:59 p.m.
I second the motion.
Is that a Friday through a Monday?
Correct.
Have a motion and a second to suspend the privilege license for alcohol and beverage sales at 2535 Cobb Parkway for 4 days, beginning Friday, April 12th at 12:01 a.m. and ending Monday, April 15th at 11:59 p.m.
And I need to modify that motion.
Okay, make an amendment.
I also need to modify the motion to also include a 1-year probation.
Okay, so the motion is for suspension for 4 days from April 12th to April 15th and 1-year probation.
Correct.
And that probation will begin today.
Correct.
Okay. You all right with that?
Yes. Seconded.
So I have a motion and a second for that, for the suspension for 4 days and 1-year probation beginning today. All those in favor, please vote.